We've now reached the hump in the week, and what you always run the risk of with that is things getting pretty boring and quiet and not a whole lot taking place in the space. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case at all. In fact, it looks like we probably still have some surprises and a lot of volatility as the week moves on. And what I want to remind people of here as well is that ADA tends to be a better late week performer, tends to get a little pumpy heading into the weekends. We're going to talk about all this and more in this video. So if you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So ADA currently is at about 81.90 now. Actually, I'm seeing it kind of rise as US money is starting to wake up. It's about 6:35 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've lost my train of thought several times, so I've had to re-record this video. But what we've seen overnight is kind of a very consistent trend as of late, and that is chop up and down. All right, we've either seen early night pumps and late night drops, or early night drops and late night pumps, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in that late night pump, and technically it's morning, but it's night for them, right? And so what we're starting to see is again a climb to begin the day, and hopefully this is a trend that U.S. money decides to continue as the day moves on. And what you're continuing to see is a lot of conviction, a lot of resilience. These are some of the most important signs that we have, in fact, been waiting for. BTC is obviously helping us out, kind of sticking around 104K. And we've gotten to this point where retail is starting to take over things and starting to move the market. Why I'm saying this is yesterday, we had a decision to make as a retail whole because institutional money didn't do shit. All right. Excuse my French, but or my language, but $96 million in outflows. They didn't do anything yesterday. All right. What they did was they watched, they waited to see how retail was going to react. And what we did was there was confidence. We moved the market to the upside. And this is kind of that sentiment shift like we've been talking about. Retail, if you guys remember, a month or so ago was like, just weak. Now we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let things fall. Not the case anymore. Things have, in fact, changed. And what you're starting to see right now is people are coming to the realization that this is what we are, in fact, headed for, right? Inflation is falling, consumer index is dropping, unemployment is rising, and the Fed has not cut rates yet, all right? There is going to be an injection of liquidity that is coming to the markets, and that's going to move things to the upside. This is exactly what we talked about in our video yesterday. It's what we've been talking about for a while. So that time is, in fact, quickly approaching. And what I want to show people as well is global M2 liquidity. Guys, BTC continues to follow this trend. And what it's showing us is that we're prepped for a very significant rise across the crypto market. All right. This isn't a guarantee. Nobody knows what's going to happen for sure. Maybe we eventually break this trend, but we have not broken this yet. It is crazy how much this tends to follow this. And what it's showing is BTC just going on a massive surge through the summer. And this is why I've continued to tell people, guys, we are much more similar to the 2016, 2017 cycle than we are 2020, 2021. All right. And why that is, in fact, so important is right as people think that they're, need to sell and go away for the summer, we may just, in fact, continue to rally. All right. You guys can see here, if this follows perfectly, early part of June, we get a little bit of a dip until the middle of June. And then we just, boom, we explode. We rally from there. Right. I think the market is going to get a little less predictable as time goes on. And a big part of that will be institutional money. All right. Now, what I will say as well is, if we keep getting stuff like this, it's going to help. It's going to help get retail excited. President Trump saying, I'm a big crypto fan this morning, right? This is stuff that is starting to, it might sound redundant to us because we hear this stuff more and more often, but who hasn't really been paying attention to that? Retail outside the space. And the more that retail sees this mentioned, the more that they just randomly glance at crypto on their phones, on the internet, right? That is when we start to see adoption take place. That is when we start to see these alt seasons and these blow off tops, right? And I do want to show people too, we're still accelerating towards this technical alt season like we were discussing. Right now we're at a 30, and that's because BTC has climbed about 7.87% over the last 90 days. Well, guess where ADA is at? About 5%. All right. Well, what are we also seeing here? A lot of these smaller altcoins that can have days of 10, 15, 20%, they're within striking distance of BTC. You get one or two good days across the crypto market, we could be very much headed towards this technical alt season. We could see that retail excitement. All right. That is a very important sign. Now, this week, guys, is not dead, right? We didn't just have our CPI report and that's it, and we're done. And now it's like, whatever, right? In fact, what we've seen is a big compression taking place once again. First of all, I do want to show people this here. The ADA BTC chart on the verge of a massive breakout to the upside. The last several times we fought this trend here, we exploded. We ran all the way up to our long-term trend. And what this would mean right now is ADA versus BTC would be about a 52% move to the upside. Okay. And that's just if we touch this trend. That is, not counting a stop below there, breaking past this. But obviously BTC will be moving at the same time. And what this could mean is that if BTC let's say moves 15% or so, you could see ADA somewhere in that $1.50, $1.80 range, potentially even higher. That's just my quick math, could be completely wrong. But hopefully people are starting to get the point of this, is that we're on the verge of some pretty wild moves in the space. In fact, ADA now has run to about 82.25 just while filming this video. But what I do want to show people as well that is kind of setting us up for not even a dead week here, potentially more movement and excitement as the week goes on, is one, long short ratio has gotten very even. So shorts are getting scared. They're kind of, I don't want to say they're flocking away from the crypto space, but they're getting more hesitant with their positions. The good news is that the shorts that are confident are being really dumb with where they're placing their leverage. In fact, when we take a look at BTC, you guys can see major short liquidations beginning at about 105K. Guys, we tapped 105K yesterday afternoon. These shorts didn't close positions. They just left them there, which is just the wildest thing I've ever seen. And what we've seen is a hard bounce for BTC. It's trying to attack some of the short leverage that filled in here in the meantime. Yes, there is some downside leverage here as well. Really big liquidations begin at about 100,700. All right. But when we take a look at ADA, we're seeing this exact same thing. All right. We are seeing that big compression take place once again. They've tried to follow price down. The people that are shorting the market, they're not being very smart about it. And this is actually potentially some fuel for more significant runs as the week moves on. All right. Now, this isn't to guarantee your financial advice or anything like that. Nobody knows what's going to happen for sure. But we kind of have this big perfect setup for this blowout in the crypto market, this blowout for ADA price. It's all finally starting to come together. You know how many times I've said price is the lagging metric. Charts can be very deceiving. Well, we're finally seeing that time where the charts are in fact catching up. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I appreciate you as always. Let me know your thoughts. Where do you think we're headed as the week moves on? Are we again going to see ADA have a strong finish to the week? But have a great day. Show your love below. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.